It can be a bit complex when trying to work out what the real cost every week when moving into a new lease premises. Not only do you have to deal with moving and fit-out costs, you have the ongoing costs of rent, but also have to work out the sometimes sophisticated methods of calculating outgoings. Many potential tenants and investors ask what real estate outgoings are and what outgoings are required to pay with commercial property leases. To get a general idea, I like to think of property costs from a taxation angle. The expenses are deductible expenses within a financial year. They can be generally classified as repairs and maintenance, thus included part of the outgoings. On the other hand, capital expenses such as a new roof or lift are general depreciable assets over a period of years and are paid by the property owner or landlord. Please note this is a general test. I recommend you consult your solicitor and accountant for full verification. Commercial real estate outgoings can be described as the expenses incurred in the general maintenance and running of a commercial building. Depending on the negotiation of the lease agreement, most, if not all, of these outgoings can be recoverable in commercial leases from commercial tenants within the financial year. To pass them on to the tenant, they must be adequately documented in the lease. Typically, the outgoings include the following expenses: building insurance, body corporate fees, levies, fees associated with the management of the property, general wear and tear repairs, property maintenance and service contracts such as air conditioning, lifts, gardening costs, roof repairs, etc., land tax, not always, water and council rates, special garbage collection. Retail leases are relatively similar to commercial leases and can be subject to alternative methods and conditions as set out and described in the Retail Leases Act. Outgoings for commercial property is paid to the landlord in various ways as outlined in the contract of lease. The most common methods are the following: net lease. With this method, the tenant is usually charged separately to the rent regularly paid. The term could be monthly, quarterly, 6-monthly, or annually, depending on what was negotiated at the commencement of the lease. This outgoing expense is usually calculated from the actual amount of outgoings paid in the previous year. From this, a budget is given to the tenant for the current year schedule. Throughout the year, adjustments as per lease can be made in various ways from the actual budgetary figure. Gross lease. With this method, there is one payment which includes the rent and outgoings. The direct deduction method. Under this method, the tenant is charged as per the invoices paid by the landlord. This is usually done at the same time as a rent invoice. What are recoverable outgoings in commercial leases? Under Section 70 of the Leases Act, the landlord is only entitled to recover reasonable expenses paid by the landlord in promoting the retail property in a shopping centre. Statutory charges, taxes, rates and levies paid by the lessor. Reasonable expenses in direct relation to the maintenance and repair of the property. Under a lease that states a tenant to be liable for the outgoings must include provisions requiring the lessor to account to the lessee at the end of the period for the actual expenditure compared to the estimate and make adjustments for any variances. They must also give budgetary figures for future outgoings at particular intervals, as stated in the lease. What to do before entering a lease? The lessor or landlord must make sure that all outgoings to be charged to the tenant is disclosed in the lease disclosure statement issued before signing the lease. On the other hand, the lessee tenant should ensure that they entirely go through and understand all the items specified in the lease and disclosure statement. This will show what outgoings you are liable for with particular reference to the lettable area you are leasing. The bottom line is that you should have a solicitor who specialises in commercial property entirely go through the lease and explain all the details to you before you sign a new lease.